Welcome, friends, to the Week in Truth number 25. We're back on the Attwood. So, this is the channel that simply will not be closed down. I don't care how many times I have to open up new YouTube accounts. We will not be defeated and we will continue. On the other hand, I don't give a shit if you want to subscribe to my channel or if you like it or if you don't like it. I will simply have my say. So, going back to Shitty Shaun, Zippy Twatword, whatever it is we're calling him this week. Hopefully I'm going to be done with him after this because really I'm bored with it. I think everyone else is bored of it too. But I'm not going to stop till everyone knows about this fucker. I really had enough of him. He's carried on since all that Cali prank stuff. He's carried on putting out YouTube content as if nothing happened. But, you know, what were we thinking, people? What were we thinking? To trust somebody who has been in prison with leading a moral crusade against an evil cabal. Now, I've got an article on the screen here that is about sociopathic traits. We'll look at them in reverse as applied to Zippy. Symptom, risky behavior, irresponsibility, impulsivity, excessive alcohol consumption, drug abuse, compulsive gambling, which really is like stockbroking, really, isn't it? Unsafe sex and dangerous hobbies, including criminal activities. Sounds a bit like Shaun, doesn't it? Up above, the symptom impulsivity. Well, I don't think anyone needs an in-depth explanation of that. Hostility and callousness. Now, if you listen to Shaun in his interviews, he does say, oh dear, and sorry, and all that type of thing, and make an effort to sort of do this really weird groaning noise when people tell him about all the things that they've been through. At the same time, he's really interested in digging out all the salacious details about every encounter. A bit like Bill Baloney is one of these people. Oh, so how many times were you buggered by such and such? So I think really he does seem to be quite callous. Of course, in order to be a successful criminal for so long, which he was a drug dealer. Let's not forget about that. Deceitfulness, he would have to be deceitful. Manipulative. Yeah, we think so. And looking at the whole situation with Callie, I hope there isn't anybody out there that still believes that she's some poor trafficked waif. Because if you look at the previous video, even though Shaun's gone to some lengths to say that his balcony is at more of a height, and if she had fallen out, she would have been hurt. Does seem to be the case, okay. But he still can't really get away with saying that Callie is some poor, trafficked, abused waif. She's a prostitute. She's a working girl who charges quite a lot for her services, appears to be a heroin addict. I wouldn't trust the pair of them as far as I could throw them, really. Difficult relationships. People with ASP, I think it's talking about antisocial personality rather than autism, by the way, find it hard to form emotional bonds. So their relationships are often unstable and chaotic, i.e. they marry people who are porn actresses and so on. And on their wedding nights, they hire prostitutes and take cocaine and have threesomes with them. Sounds a bit like Shaun, doesn't it? Lack of empathy, that's really the same as callousness and so on. Anyhow, let's go and take a look at the main purpose of this video. Is that I wanted to talk about this article in the Phoenix New Times, which goes into a lot of depth about Shaun's criminal background. And while I am reading some of the key paragraphs from this, we'll look at a few lovely, lovely photographs of Shaun's life from that time. Here's Shaun, and I don't know who this lady is, but obviously she would appear to be perhaps at work in that photo. He seems to be enjoying that, which tells you all you need to know about the type of ladies he likes to associate with. Ladies like Callie Diamond, who are prostitutes. So anyway, some key paragraphs from this article, because it's very, very long. I've got a printed copy here that I am reading from. Can't read it all to you because it would go on for hours. 22 pages that I've printed out. This beginning paragraph sets the scene. Evil Empire. Ethan, Will, and others who were there still talk about the scene that night. Two girls, a stripper and her friend, walked arm in arm through the living room of a villa at an East Valley resort hotel. Braless in matching bright halter tops, the girls wove their way through the crowd, sharing balance among their 4 feet. They wore naive, synthetic grins, eyes lolling about the room. Near the kitchen, their gazes landed on a 6-foot-tall bald man. He was, Ethan recalls, crushing and chopping pills, spilling the granules into a pile of powder on the smooth glass of a picture frame that had been taken off the wall. The tall guy, 30 years old, but younger looking than that, was the host of the party, English Shaun. Change the picture. Oop. Moving on in the story, and in more ways than one, Attwood is tall, lanky and bald, with pale white skin and pinched features. His accent is where the English comes from, a Mad Hatter tea-time lilt. He has braces on his teeth. His lips are thin and pursed, and his blue eyes glimmer mischievously, even in a mugshot. Friends and former roommates describe him as a sort of vampire, largely nocturnal. With a thirst for the GHB, they say he drank like blood, and a more than passing resemblance to Nosferatu. He could be proper, charming, polite, with an intelligence that matched his magnetism. Well, I don't know that you're all that brainy, Shaun. Just going through all the pages of this article, on and on and on it goes. Okay. Business and pleasure were never far apart in Shaun's mind, as Marcus soon found out. At one point, Shaun is sitting on the couch with these 2 young girls, an arm around each of them, and they have glitter on their face and their arms and their legs. You know, glitter girls, really hot but really young. He gets up with the girls and walks back to his room with them, but he's caught my eye as he's getting up from the couch, so he knows I'm watching him, Marcus remembers with a smirk. But then, as they're getting right up to the bedroom door, he flips his head back over his shoulder and sort of quickly nods for me to follow him. So, at this time, we remember Shaun was 30. So, how old do you think these 2 young glitter girls were? And yet, Shaun, you are constantly on about dirty Mr. Jeffrey Epstein. But you like young girls, don't you, Shaun? He said, Heidi, love, why don't you spend some quality time with Marcus here? So this means basically not only does he have these very young girls he was around when he was 30, he's using them to give pleasure to his business associates. Heidi smiled at Marcus, then ran her tongue all around her lips, got up and took him by the hand and led him back into the living room, where they kissed and felt each other out for hours. At one point, he had her pressed into the speakers, grinding her from behind. She leaned her head back to lick his ear and said to him words that seemed to intertwine with the music. "You're so cool! You're so cool!" And he remembers thinking to himself, "I've got it made. I'm in." Do you like my American accent? It's good, isn't it? Oh, it's that lovely picture of Shaun. You're so sexy, Shaun. Look at your hair. So, next bit. We've moved back to later times. Shaun dealing in the clubs. We discussed some of his dealers. They all were wearing the Batman t-shirts because the Batman stamped on the ecstasy pills as well. By this time, Shaun has diversified into all sorts of drugs, not just ecstasy, but meth, amphetamine, all sorts of dirty things. Here we go again. Anyway, the lower street level tiers of the organisation were considerably more complicated to manage. Will and Ethan both claimed that promoters at the time hired English Shaun's organisation to handle security at their parties, as well as to provide for the ravers' chemical needs. Outfitted in black security t-shirts, wielding mag lights, and often tasers in their pockets, they say, Shaun's underlings could effectively shut out any competition, though the evil empire apparently had the rave drug market on lockdown. There were always upstarts looking to make money at the parties, and toward the millennium, Sammy the Bull's minions were beginning to assert their presence at raves. Yes, Shaun's underlings were tasering the competition and taking their shit, Will affirms. He worked security with English Shaun once in May 1999 at a rave called Golden, held outdoors south of Phoenix, and witnessed the assaults firsthand. They just did the tasering with impunity because of who they worked for. They were just thugs who did it for their own gain. Working for English Shaun seems to have bestowed these lower-level operatives with a license to do as they pleased. Taser the competition, take their product, sell it and pocket the profit, with English Shaun none the wiser. The people who jacked the other people, they would profit before Shaun did, Will continues. It's not like everything was paid to the Don. It's still a free market. Tales of violence and kidnapping permeate the legend of English Shaun. But this is the nasty bit, okay? That not only did Shaun allow this low-level violence and tasering crap to go on, he was also horrible to people who didn't owe him an awful lot of money. There's a story in here about one particular customer who owed him a lot, $10,000, and basically they spiked his drink, took him into the desert and beat him up and left him there with loads of dope in his pockets, so that if he got found and picked up by the police, they'd find all the drugs on him. But there's a story that he was not so nice to little people either, who didn't owe him very much. So, according to police in November 1997, Attwood, along with his alleged enforcer and fellow Englishman Peter Mahoney, the fat wild man character, were arrested for threatening to kill a tempeh woman for $25. They showed up at her door around 9 p.m., demanding payment for a small ecstasy sale that had taken place earlier. The woman told police that Attwood yelled, "Pay me my fucking money or I will kill you." When she told Attwood she didn't have the money, Attwood reportedly responded, "Well then, I am going to break into your apartment and steal everything in there, and if anyone gets in my way, I am going to kill them." Soon after the woman called the police, a neighbour said she saw Attwood push a gas grill up to the woman's door and attempt to light the propane tank with his lighter. According to police reports, Tempe police sought charges of felony theft by extortion. he was convicted of a lesser charge and served no jail time. But because of this increasing violence, so the story continues. Lots of people decided they didn't really want to work with him, and he was going a bit mad on all this GBH stuff that he was taking. By May the 16th, law enforcement, which by now included US Customs, the DEA, and Phoenix, Scottsdale, and Tempe police, had heard enough. They picked up Shaun at his girlfriend's apartment in Scottsdale just after 7 a.m. A source close to the investigation describes his living conditions as squalor, with sex toys on the floor and trash strewn around the apartment. So you see, people, what were we ever thinking in terms of this man being a moral crusader? Leopards do not change their spots. This article continues about the trial. 10 minutes later, Attwood's girlfriend, 19-year-old Amber Hollwegner, arrives with a young man and her parents. She is relaxed, even giggly. She and her friends laugh at the aliases the prosecution has assigned to those indicted, especially those they've given to her boyfriend. Wanker, evil, she reads them off. My point in reading this is 19-year-old Amber with then must have been older than 30-year-old Shaun. Bit of a big age gap there, Shaun. Evidently, he'd finished with his wife at that point, who I might remind you was the lesbian porn star. This is the ex-wife, so far as I know. There's a few pictures with her in. So, you see, this is the sad tale of Shaun Attwood. Reformed character? I think not. Now, just to tell you the news with my channel, which has got a 12-week strike from YouTube, even though I don't talk about conspiracy theory in the regular sense. That is what they have used to remove two of the videos, which are the Kate Shemirani one and the Corona hoax video. Of course, they're on BitChute. Everything is mirrored on BitChute now in case this channel also gets shut down, which I have no doubt that it will. I suspect Shaun had a hand in this because my channel is a piddling, pissy little channel with less than 800 subscribers at the time that it was given a 12-week strike, Shaun. At that particular time, all of my different Twitter accounts and stuff started being hacked, didn't they, Shaun? So, you know, guys, this was at a time when I was copying and pasting links to my YouTube site on various social media, and I think certain people didn't like that. Did they, Shaun? Anyhow, folks, this is enough for today. Once again, I don't give a shit if you subscribe or like. My channel isn't monetized. I'm only doing this to be of service to humanity. Tatty bye.